Thank you. On May 15th, I attended the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council monthly meeting. Several interesting things, all sort of tying together. The mayor of the village of Tequesta, Abby Brennan, was speaking about their 5-year capital improvement plan for repaving and restriping city streets. In that presentation, referring to her own town as the pothole central of the region. I'm wondering if she would get some argument there, but also recognizing that maybe if we can broaden our scope a little bit, recognize that we are not the only city that is facing a similar problem. Then taking that to the national level, this is coming on the heels of what has been dubbed National Infrastructure Week, an annual event in Washington, D.C., where businesses, labor, and elected officials meet to discuss the critical role of investing in and modernizing American infrastructure and the essential role that infrastructure plays on the economy. The federal government estimates that $3.6 trillion are necessary to make roadways safe nationwide. So again, recognizing that this is not just a local problem, but a national problem, and that solutions are being developed on a national level. So as we need to address our infrastructure needs in the future, I think that we should consider that we are not alone in this, and we should not be coming up with just our own plan, but looking at best practice models throughout the country and also seeing if there might actually be some assistance available from the national government. In kind of the same vein, the Treasure Coast Regional Council Planning staff, Kim Delaney, was speaking about the state of Florida's Complete Streets program. This is a statewide program that is providing information to have cities move away from auto-dominated streets to streets that they refer to as being all-encompassing. So having bicycle lanes, incorporating traffic calming, and again recognizing that slowing down traffic and increasing pedestrian traffic draws more attention to businesses. So thinking that possibly this would be a great idea for our Dixie Highway that I think many of us would refer to as still blighted. Perhaps if we could just slow the traffic down a little and invite more pedestrian traffic, perhaps that would increase patronism to those businesses there. So, and that's all I have today. Thank you.
Commissioner Merschel?
A lot going on. First of all, we've got community cleanup coming up on May 30th. Saturday, May 30th, 8 a.m. at the North H Street Park. That's the park right behind Compass. We encourage everyone to come out and participate. Also, remember that their swimming lessons have started and will continue to go up at the pool. Thursdays at 11 a.m. Babies through age 4, and then also up to 8. And Sally's up there, and she does a great job, so please support the local pool. I had the pleasure of visiting one of our new gems this afternoon, which is a food pantry that feeds people on Wingfield. The pastor came to see us at a recent meeting, and I also know that the vice mayor has been out and is helping, so we're looking forward to moving that feeding program forward on a couple different levels, and I'm very happy that the vice mayor is helping in that district, and I look forward to moving forward with some initiatives there, helping them with some grants and things. Also, we had a home dedication, a CRA and a Habitat Humanity home dedication, the White family, on South C Street this week. We actually had 2 this week. That makes 66 Habitat homes that we have dedicated through the NSP2 program, which is huge. That's just the Habitat homes. That does not include the CRA homes or the adoptive family homes. Also, remember that Solid Waste Authority has Paint Your Heart Out program. If you have neighbors that need their house painted, please try to identify them, get me that information or Robert Waples. And right now, we don't have anyone on a waiting list. So there's money there, there's people looking to volunteer, and we have no one on a waiting list. Also, I attended the visibility walk. Thank you, Tammy, and thank you all the neighbors who came out for that the other night. Thank you, PBSO. And last week, I was privileged to attend on behalf of the National League of Cities and the City of Lake Worth. I flew to DC to lobby on behalf of the National League of Cities and the City of Lake Worth. I met with the offices of Rubio, Frankel, Deutsch, and Nelson. And we need to keep Lake Worth visible in both Tallahassee and Washington. They were all very welcoming on the issues. We were lobbying on behalf of the National League of City Long-Term Transportation and Infrastructure Funding to continue the CDGB fund grants. And also e-fairness. If you're not familiar with e-fairness, it is actually a movement. Myself as a small business owner, retail, I pay sales tax because I'm brick and mortar. When you buy something online, legally you are responsible to pay taxes on it in your taxes at the end of the year. How many people do that? It's just not happening. One thing that we've identified through the League of Cities is over $38 billion since 13 has not been coming back to the cities or the local municipalities where these things are being bought. So we're trying to get some legislation there. I also lobbied on behalf of Sober Homes. Like House Representative Berman said, we do have the first step, but in my opinion, we have no exit strategy. Most of these people are importing people from other places. When their insurance stops paying or they relapse, they're put out on the street. No other protected class are we allowed to do this to. So there needs to be an exit strategy. We are not a dump floor. It is not a dumping ground. If people truly need to get help, there are the good ones that have, like the mayor had said, and the vice mayor, they have risen to the top. So hopefully this is a stepping stone, but House Representative Frankel has moved it forward with a few letters, and everybody's pretty much on board. And one of the biggest things I've identified is when I'm here as a local elected, we are not Democrats, we are not Republicans. When we go to Tallahassee or Washington, you have to become the Democrat that you are or the Republican, because they just work like that. And it's kind of hard to separate, because when I'm there, I'm representing the city of Lake Worth. And it's kind of hard. And it's kind of interesting because the Sober House Initiative, it seems like the Republicans are pushing it through. Democrats are a little standing off. So it's quite interesting when you go to lobby different things, how it's perceived. But we're moving forward with all the initiatives and the CDGB funds. I sit on the National League of Cities Policy and Advocacy Board, and we're actually taking up trying to get more CDGB funds, grant money, and push that through. Tomorrow I will be sworn in as a board of directors for the Palm Beach County League of Cities. So I want to really work on that initiative for the local municipalities for the next year, and just keep Lake Worth at the table. The Vice Mayor has done some great work in the last year with the Palm Beach County League of Cities and the National League of Cities. So I look forward to carrying that on. And again, just to make sure that Lake Worth is at the table, we have a good friend, that Ike Robinson, and he always says, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So we'll carry on. Thank you.
And congratulations, Commissioner Moroso. Commissioner McCoy?
Yeah, just a couple brief ones. I continue to hear a lot from the community and myself on train horns, and it's, I guess, still relevant with the All Aboard Florida thing, that anything that we're doing, I hope that we as a city are pushing, and I understand that a number of other communities are pretty concerned about the volume too. So I hope we'll keep pushing as a city on that. Thank you, Commissioner Meyer, on the report with the Florida Complete Streets. That, as some of you know, was one of the things that I was concerned about when we did the initial bond effort, last year that I thought, if we're going to spend money on rebuilding streets, let's be aware of the best available thinking on what do you want your streets to look like? Are they just things to move cars fast through our residences and well, not through the residences, but through our residential neighborhoods, and some of the other places? Or do we want our streets to do a range of things? Move bicycles, move people on foot, and be safer for doing that, and less noise, some of those things. So I hope that if we, as Commissioner Myers suggested, let's recognize that our problems with infrastructure are in fact national. There was a famous report from the American Society of Civil Engineers that I think rated U.S. infrastructure somewhere between a C and a D. So we're all in this, and we all need to recognize that at some point spending some of our money to improve our infrastructure is important. I did also participate, along with some of the other folks, in the crime walk. Thank you, Tammy, for organizing that in the Pineapple Grove area, and then stayed down there and went and talked to various folks in the other side of the tracks, 9th and 10th and G and H, an area that I'm trying to help out with a little bit. One of the things that struck me, and it's an interest of mine for a while, is, and I don't know the research, but I'm aware of some research on it, but we are all in this community quite concerned about safety in the community and reducing crime, residential crime. I think one of the things that comes out is the more of your neighborhood that does look a little nicer, doesn't have to look nicey, but just doesn't have to look like Boca, but a little bit of effort, minimal fencing, minimal plantings, minimal upkeep on the house can go a long way. And so I hope that we push on this both as individual property owners, whether landlords or residential, for our own safety, because I think there's a measurable benefit from it, but also that we push as a city level. I owe you some pictures, city manager, on some of the places that are looking kind of derelict and go the opposite direction. So I hope we'll continue to work on that both as individuals and as a city, because I think it helps.
Okay, great. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of things here this evening. First of all, I had the pleasure of participating in a home dedication of the Kelly family. They have been Lake Worth renters, I guess, for 20 years since they came over from Jamaica, and they were just tickled to death to have the opportunity to own their own home, and it's an absolutely beautiful home. Unfortunately, the lot next to them could use a little love, and that's something the city manager and I need to talk about. That building happens to be, I guess, on one of our lists for demolition, but we're having a funding issue, so maybe we could take a look at that list in terms of prioritizing it, and maybe under the circumstances, we could go in there and, take it down, because the new homeowner is anxious to get over there with his own wheelbarrow and sledgehammer, and I know, and I told him not to do that, but he's anxious to get after it, so I told him that I'd work with you and we'd see what we can do to make that happen for him. Also, I also had the pleasure of attending the Lake Worth High School class of 1965 at the Casino Ballroom last weekend, and those folks wore me out. It was unbelievable. There must have been 300 folks there. And there were actually classes represented from 63, 64, 65, 66, and 67. And the highlight of the evening was a presentation that was given by one of the local residents, Skip Massell, is that how you pronounce his last name? Who had an absolutely wonderful piece of artwork that he had done some 40 years ago, painting of the old Five and Dime store, tents, Five and Dime store on Lake Avenue. So he presented that to the city. Unfortunately, it's a rather large piece of artwork, and it was not going to fit in my car. So city staff has taken possession of that, and I've asked that we have a formal presentation made by Mr. Massell going sometime in early June, and everybody can see that. And maybe we can rotate the artwork around the city and our city buildings. But I think they're kind of looking for maybe a place, permanent home in the library. I don't know if there's any room over there, but that's what they'd like to see. With respect to sober homes, a comment was made earlier about, what do we do with the folks that fall through the cracks and end up on the street? I have suggested to Representative Hager and others that we look into the idea of a similar program that we have in place for children, abandoned children. You could take children to a firehouse or whatever, a police station, and they'll take those children, no questions asked. I think there needs to be a similar program that these sober homes have to disclose to their patients that if for whatever reason they find themselves on the street, they can go to a police station or whatever the case, to be taken in, so they don't have to be on the streets. And there'll be some sort of a safety net, unfortunately, taxpayers' expense, but we'd rather do that than have them roaming the streets and creating potentially a greater burden to the taxpayer. I appreciate the comments made about the federal government coming to the epiphany that maybe we need to have infrastructure after 50 years. You know, I don't think I'm gonna hold my breath waiting for the federal government to throw money our way to fix our local problems. And, you know, and I would dare say that communities around America are not waiting for the federal government to step up and fix their infrastructure. So it'll be nice if that happens, but I wouldn't, you know, count on it happening anytime real soon. Also, I mentioned last meeting, and I'll mention it again, I had the opportunity to meet with Captain Silva this morning a little bit in more detail about the potential for rolling out a citywide CLP program by using the neighborhood associations as the vehicle to do this. And we're going to be having a joint meeting between Captain Silva, the coordinator of that program, and the city manager to kind of go over how we might roll this out. But the general outline is to roll it out to the NAPC and hopefully roll it out through the individual neighborhoods and challenge the individual neighborhoods to identify membership or members of their community to want to volunteer for this program, get the training, and move forward with the citywide, more present, more visible CLP program. So that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Did you miss something?
I did, as you know, I was thinking of them afterwards. Two real brief ones. One on the painting that Commissioner Maxwell mentioned. I'd just like to throw out the suggestion that in the past, the ballroom at the old casino seemed to be very much of a community center. And I've thought that our ballroom there could use a little more personalizing. And maybe one thought is that painting and others that relate to Lake Worth history might be very nice things to consider putting in that room to, again, personalize that room, that this is our city, this is a meeting place for Lake Worth. So I'll put that idea out there. And the other is that I wanted to thank and I won't swear that I have the name right, but the Lake Worth Town and Garden Club, did I get that right? For submitting the beach area for an award. And I'd like to point out to the community that is actually a pretty significant, pretty big deal that we received an award, because that's all based on native plantings. And it takes a little doing to do native plantings and make it aesthetic as well. And I think Michael Singer and Kimberly Horn and others did a pretty good job of that. So thank you for that recognition. I've been all of a sudden surprised just wandering around the beach at how many people have noticed and mentioned that it's native plants. I didn't realize that there were that many people watching, so I'm glad to see that that's the case.
Did you miss something too?
I missed something very important before it runs around Facebook 500 times. My trip to Washington, I paid for my trip to Washington out of my own pocket. I did receive the airfare ticket from the National League of Cities, which I will be claiming, but I did pay 100% out of my own pocket.
Let's start running timers on you guys. You're gonna have to limit your. In regards to infrastructure, did anyone see 60 Minutes? Did you see the infrastructure story on that? Okay, it was it was really scary. They showed the bridges across the United States, some of that were failing. I mean, could fail, and they actually had They had to create catchment areas under certain bridges, so that debris from the bridges wouldn't fall on cars. It was out of Pittsburgh. That's for sure. That's where that was. But hey. But anyway, what was real interesting to say was that they tried to bring back. They even had that little piece which I thought was interesting. They had the Chamber of Commerce. The heads of the Chamber of Commerce on a national basis, and they had the unions, the heads of the unions, both came together, which never happens, to say that, you know, we need to do these roadway projects, we need to bring jobs back to people. Everybody was on the same page about it, to say we have to do this, and they still couldn't get anything passed. Of course, the House and the Senate and everything else is just always gridlocked out, that nobody could come to any kind of agreement on it. The one thing that was interesting that Commissioner Amoroso said when I was up there in Washington was that, you know, I actually had a chance to be in the White House, and I talked with Anthony Fox, who's the Director of Transportation and Economic Development there, and it was a very cool experience. But, you know, I basically said to him, I said, potholes don't have political parties. You know, when you talk to us in our local government, it's nice that you guys can argue back and forth and who's on what side or whatever, but the issues that we all have face all of us regardless of what political party you are. They affect our community. And he was laughing about it. I said, you know, nobody registers. I'm on the pothole party and I'm on the not pothole party. But, you know, we had a joke about it, but we really have some serious issues. So I'm so glad Commissioner Amoroso was there about CDBG monies. I just think the projects we've done this last year alone, you know, have really helped our community, and we couldn't have done it without those monies. And we certainly don't need to have any monies taken away, because we're clawing for every dollar that we can possibly get to help us, and we know that our challenges are great. In reference to, we're talking about Dixie Corridor, Commissioner Meyer mentioned that, good thing. Kim Delaney and I have been working together we initially started through MPO on the Dixie Corridor, and hopefully she has told me that sometime this fall, we should be having our first public meetings to talk about the types of things that we're interested in having, a charrette of sorts, to talk about increasing the bike lanes, the sidewalks, closing in, making the roads smaller with turn lanes as opposed to double travel lanes on Dixie, so that, because there's a lot of issues with trying to turn off of Dixie and accidents that happen because of the lack of turn lanes, and it's just, you know, some people use it as a highway, some people take it nice and slow, either way, it's always a lot of issues. Anyway, but with a lot of the studies that Commissioner Meyer mentioned, that they've been working on that and the complete streets and everything else, that they're looking to do that, and some of the dollars being allocated, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but a lot of the projects out west that 25 years ago got on that long-range transportation plan, those communities don't want those big flyovers over their gated communities out west and whatever. And there's millions of dollars set aside for those projects. So us on the east are saying, hey, you know, let's invest in US 1, Dixie Highway, Federal Highway, those are your responsibilities. You know, we need the infrastructure, because 25 years ago, they didn't put those dollars in for us. So that's really a push, and it's not just us, it's Lantana, West Palm, Riviera Beach, everyone's kind of piggybacking, and I know West Palm's gonna be doing a South End study on their Dixie Highway corridor. They're also doing a major study, I think that's already been approved and assigned dollars to, which is in Dixie and Belvedere, in that corridor right there. And so we're trying to, you know, continue on the track, and let's talk about our own plans, but it looks very, very good and very promising. City manager, wouldn't you say? Based on our conversations, looks really, really good. Now, she said, Kimberly said probably fall, September preferably for our first meeting, so hopefully I'll have announcements for that. We raised the Haitian flag today, Haitian Flag Day, something we did, it's our 3rd annual, so that was wonderful, we had a nice group out there. I'd like to move that to evening hours sometime, because I really don't think that we get the most participation, because people are still working in their jobs that early at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and if we couldn't do it after a meeting or something like that, I think that we probably would get more people from the community, because every year they say, are you doing it? And then we do it, but everyone's like, I can't be there, I'm working, so that's something to think about. Amnesty Week for the foliage, next week, right? 26th on, so if you've got any pruning to do for the hurricane season and whatnot, remember you can put out your stuff.
That's for vegetarians.
Vegetarians, yeah, put out your vegetarians. Only vegetarians. Had an amazing time Friday night, Lake Worth High School graduation. Here's to our class of 2015. Let me tell you, they were like co-valedictorians. One of them was just so incredible and talked about how 4 years ago she didn't even speak English. She was from Turkey. The other was from Haiti, the other co-valedictorian. The salutatorian was Hispanic and also didn't speak English earlier. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. The GPAs of that class were incredible. And Principal Lockhart was like, you know, he goes, I told this class when they got in that they were something special. So I said, you tell that to all the classes, Principal Lockhart. He said, yeah, but he said, because I don't know, there was just something about this class or whatever. And I'll tell you, it was one of the most moving, and I go every year, but it was just incredible, an incredible ceremony, and congratulations to everybody involved at Lake Worth High School. It was a fantastic event. I promise now I'm stepping in on myself here. Happy hour at Ben Zeiton, last Friday of every month, Ben Zeiton Center for the Creative Arts, 5:30 to 7:30. You can go, they're having a donation at the door type of thing, but they're gonna be having the last Friday of every month. You can come and watch glass blown, and maybe if you learn how to do it yourself. And then an important message I promised, Sharon Bach, our wonderful clerk and comptroller, please be wary of private companies selling copies of deeds and other documents. There are things going out telling you if you need to get your marriage license, your tax deeds, court judgments or whatever. There's a huge barrage of these things going out to everyone. You can get them from her. Free or for just a few bucks for if you need like the original types of copies. But just be aware of that, okay, and call her instead of sending any money, and it's a lot of money that these people are asking for, so don't be fooled. Thank you, moving on.